Today's recovery story is with Ted from the UK, who recovered after experiencing ME/CFS and post-viral fatigue syndrome for about 7 years. When we first get ill, I think we all expect to get well again. And when days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, we maintain hope. But for how long? Ted shares his experience of how ME/CFS progressed, and how when after about 7 years he finally thought he had recovered, he relapsed and had a massive crash that left him feeling for the first time he would never recover. Ted had read CFS Unravelled and had tried mind-body programs and graded exercise therapy with no success. But then he enrolled in ANS Rewire and had a completely different experience that really surprised him. He shares his story in this wonderful interview that is both uplifting and inspiring. It's full of wisdom for recovery from ME/CFS. This wonderfully kind gentleman shares how he made 2 big changes to his lifestyle, things that had been a core part of his life for nearly 3 decades. What dedication to recovery. I think his story really shows the power of commitment to do the things that have to be done to get well. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Today I'm speaking with Ted from the UK. Hi Ted, thanks for coming to share your story.
Hi Dan, it's a pleasure, thank you.
So you, like many people, are one of the people who saw these recovery interviews some time ago, and now you're doing one. Must feel a bit strange.
It feels very strange, I have to say. Very strange, yeah.
When you first saw them, did you think you might be doing one of them one day?
No. Not because I wasn't hoping to get better, but I just never thought I'd be doing one of these. No.
Fair enough. So, look, Ted, let's start off with how long ago did you first get sick? I mean, how old were you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. It was the first symptoms were 2 weeks after my 50th birthday. Very, very specific.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, the thing is, with hindsight, when I look back, though, I can see signs going back years previously, which kind of pointed to me heading in this sort of direction. But when I was very, very, very ill,
yes,
that was when I was first diagnosed.
How long ago was it that you first got ill? How many years ago was it?
That was actually 8 years ago.
8 years ago. And what were your first symptoms?
It actually happened in a dance class, amazingly. I was doing this dance class, and then suddenly I found that my head was getting very cloudy. I didn't know where I was. I was very disorientated, very dizzy, and suddenly found that I couldn't move. My body just wouldn't respond.
Wow. Must have been pretty scary.
It was very scary, yeah.
Yeah. What did your wife say at the time? I mean, it must have been very confusing, no?
She was a little bit shocked. I think she just thought, oh, he's not feeling very well. Maybe he's got flu coming on or something like that. Because I didn't make a big fuss about it in the middle of the lesson. I just said to her I wasn't feeling very well, and I thought I ought to leave the lesson.
Yeah.
And I don't think she realised quite how I was feeling at that point.
Sure. So,
but she was very shocked when she found me afterwards in the car, and I was just slumped, unable to do anything. Yeah.
Wow. So then what happened after that? I mean, did you, I guess you probably thought you'd get better the next day or something like that. I mean, how did it fall down?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I thought I would get better. I kept going, basically, which is what I'd always done all my life. I went to work the next day and really struggled. Got through the day, but I think that I don't remember much about after finishing. I think I probably just went home and slept. And it went on like that for a fortnight, feeling exhausted and struggling. Obviously, I was moving at that point.
Mm.
But it was as if I'd had a really bad virus, a really bad flu or cold, and had those after feelings of just weakness and not being able to do anything.
And then I assume you would have gone to the doctor at that time at some stage, or did you just think it's a flu, they can't do anything?
You would assume, wouldn't you? Yeah. No, I didn't.
So then,
no, I didn't go to the doctor straight away because I just think I thought, well, I'll get over this.
sure.
I think part of it was, as I said earlier on, that with hindsight, when I look back, there'd been episodes before of things happening like this where I would feel for a number of weeks very weak and very tired. Right. And I think I just thought maybe that was what was happening to me again.
Okay.
So what did happen was that after a fortnight, I didn't feel particularly better. So I took a whole week off work, thinking, well, I just need to stop. I need to rest. Which is what I did. Yeah.
Okay. And then what?
Then what? Well, I was very sensible for a week and I didn't do anything. And I went back to work. I was sat at my dental chair, starting to tip the chair back to treat my first patient. And as I tried to lift my hand up to actually start working on them, I couldn't move. I just physically couldn't move. And I had to turn to my nurse and say, please, can you get Mrs. Jones?
Yeah.
But please, can you get Mrs. Jones out of the chair and get my wife?
Yeah.
That was when I went to the doctor. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, you throw me back to my own experience, and I know it can feel a little bit almost mind-boggling. I mean, like, it's like you just don't want to say something like that, do you? It takes a lot. It takes a lot to take that step because it sounds a bit dramatic. And it feels it doesn't feel natural to. It's almost embarrassing, isn't it?
I think you're completely right on that. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So then, what happens? I mean, like, what happened when you went to the doctor? And did your symptoms change over time? Did you have treatments? I mean, tell us your story.
Well, I think I scared the doctor completely because this person was brought in. I mean, at this point, I was super fit. I mean, I was super fit.
Yeah.
I did an enormous amount of dancing. I enjoyed walking, as in hiking, walking. I was very, very fit, and suddenly this person was in front of her who couldn't move, and she's just sent me straight away for a battery of tests. Sent me off to the hospital, and I had all sorts of tests done straight away that day. And it was following all that she made the diagnosis of post-viral fatigue syndrome.
Right.
Yeah. What happened was I was very sensible. I did what she told me to do. I cut down my hours. I ensured that I took proper rest, and gradually I was getting better.
Okay.
But then events happened in my life. When I actually saw the doctor, one of the things she said to me was, "Is there any stress going on in your life?"
Yes.
And my reply was, "Oh no, I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed at all."
Yes.
But in fact, I was under massive stress, and she just teased it out of me. For instance, one of the things I'd got going on in my life at that point was that a couple of weeks previously to this all happening, I had to have a conversation with my dad's GP, his doctor, about how ill he was and the fact that he was probably dying. But to me, that was normal. That was just the way life was, and I wasn't stressed.
Yes.
And she helped to make me realize that actually there was a high level of stress in my life.
Sure.
And that's, again, it was part of that. It was my father's declining health, and all we went through with that.
Yeah.
That then brought all the symptoms back.
Yes.
And then there didn't seem to be a way back. Then I just got worse and worse and worse again.
It's funny because obviously it is a normal part of life. These things are normal, and there's a part of us that can intellectualize them. Well, this is just what happens, and not
yeah.
stiff upper lip and all that, as you British say. But it's like sometimes we don't recognize that these things do have more of an impact on us, because on an intellectual level we rationalize them.
Yeah.
But they're still negative events, aren't they? So what was the original diagnosis your doctor gave you with the post-viral fatigue syndrome?
In what sense?
The prognosis, I should say. Sorry.
The prognosis. The prognosis was that, if I was sensible and I didn't try to overdo it, then I should be able to come out of that.
Okay. So she thought. Did she put a time frame on it at the time?
Yeah, she said about 6 months.
About 6 months. Yep.
Yeah.
And then obviously you were having difficulty. You weren't getting better. Were your symptoms changing? Were they getting worse? Were you getting other symptoms? I mean, besides the fatigue, did you have any other symptoms?
As well as the fatigue, the brain fog was pretty much a nightmare.
Yes.
I was very temperature sensitive, hot and cold sensitivity. I'd always been somebody who preferred to feel cold when I was working.
Yes.
And so my surgery used to be known as the fridge, because I always had the air conditioning on and no one wanted to work with me. Suddenly I went the other way. I couldn't stand being cold, and everyone hated working with me because the surgery was too hot.
Yes. Yes.
But I was very sensitive to that, very sensitive to noise, incredibly sensitive.
What about in your body? Were there any other bodily symptoms, like problems with your gut or problems with the immune system, all these kind of things?
Problems with my gut came later. They developed more with time. But yes, there was. I had issues like emotional problems as well.
Yes.
Irritability, just the slightest thing. That was quite a strong complication as well.
Yeah.
And then general aches and pains, a lot of general aches and pains in legs and that sort of thing.
Right. Okay. So your diagnosis changed, or was re-diagnosed as CFS or ME, as it's called in the UK.
Sure.
Did they ever diagnose you with fibromyalgia as well, or was the pains not so specific?
No, I wasn't diagnosed with fibromyalgia.
Yes. Yes.
From my own sort of knowledge, I don't think that I had fibromyalgia per se. No.
It was more the typical pains that you get with CFS.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, as things went on, presumably, I mean, I know how it goes. Suddenly these weeks turn into months, and then suddenly the months turns into a year or two. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of years. I mean, how did the illness change? I mean, did it just become a steady normal of you trying to scrape through the week doing some part-time work? Did you get a lot of different symptoms? Did you seek a lot of treatments? How would you summarize those years?
How do I summarize those years? Gosh. I coping maybe. Coping probably. One of the difficulties was that, and it was one of the difficulties because it also came out of my nature. I was self-employed, and I had a great sense of responsibility because if I wasn't actually working, then I wasn't earning money for my staff to be paid their wages. And this did put me under a lot of pressure in the sense of, again, it's the sort of person I am, that I felt this great responsibility that I should be trying to work whenever I could. And that's what I did. Okay, I could only work part-time and I could only see a few patients in a day, but I was working. But the net result of that was that I had no life outside work. I was just stuck in a chair. I had no energy to do anything outside of that.
Did you try a lot of treatments?
Yeah, I tried a number of treatments. I think very early on, I realized that I had to get help because I had a number of patients who had chronic fatigue syndrome, ME as such. And I'd sort of seen what was available in the UK through the medical profession at that time. And I think I realized I had to think outside the box, that they were ill for so long. A number of my patients had been ill for like 17 years plus. I didn't feel that I was going to be ill forever at that time. I really felt I was going to get better in some shape or form. And so I went out looking for help. I had regular acupuncture with a 5-element Chinese traditional acupuncturist, which helped me enormously.
Okay.
It kept me going. It really kept me going.
Like it just gave you a bit of a boost with your energy and your immune system. Is that what you felt?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there were times when I would almost crawl in, and I could barely move, and I'd have treatment, and I'd be able to walk out and function again. So that helped me a lot. I responded well to it. Very early on, I signed on to the Gupta technique. Mm-hmm. It's changed a lot, I think, over the years, but certainly in those early days, it helped me. I had some improvement, but I just couldn't maintain any type of recovery.
Right.
Yeah, I think through my research and all the things I was looking at, I got into mindfulness meditation. Mm-hmm. I tried pacing. Yeah, I tried all the things that so many of us have tried over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you engage with any other doctors? Did you have any other sort of medical treatments as well, or?
No, I didn't. I didn't. Not at all. No.
Were you still in contact with your doctor as the years went on?
Not really. No.
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And then, and so, would you say there was a particular thing that happened that? So you tried all these strategies, they sort of kept you going, nothing was kind of really got you over the line. Was there something that happened that was your turning point? I mean, was it ANS rewire, or was there something that happened beforehand?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely ANS rewire that made all the difference. I'd found your book probably about 18 months previously before I signed onto the program. Basically through my own research that I was doing, and your book came up on a web search. I bought it straight away. I just thought it was brilliant. I still do. I've recommended it to so many people because I think the work you've done there, Dan, is amazing. How you've brought together,
thank you,
so much understanding, and then being able to put it across so clearly to be understood. That's a gift in itself. So thank you for that. It all made sense, and I think because I was doing the mindfulness meditation, for instance, already, and I could see how that was going to help. I started working with a functional medical practitioner.
Good.
A little bit more than just a nutritionist, but that's the idea. And I was getting some very positive improvement.
Oh, good.
But I think what was happening with me was that I would get improvement, and it would seem to stay with me for a while, might be a couple of months, and then I would relapse and have a massive crash.
Right.
And that was a trend I was seeing over time.
Yeah.
This improvement and crashing, improvement and crashing.
How did you cope with that emotionally?
Just did.
Had to.
I just had to. Yeah. I was okay about it. I think what happened though, what finally prompted me was in 2016. I'd had quite a long period of time of what I thought was feeling really well. With hindsight, I know actually I wasn't as well as I thought it was, but I felt really well.
You lose your perspective after 7 years, don't you?
Yeah, I think I thought I'd got this cracked. I really thought I've got this cracked.
Yes.
That's it now. And to be honest, I think as a result, because I thought I got it cracked, and I think this is what was happening in the other occasions when I had relapses, mindfulness meditation would go, or I'd stop doing something else or whatever. anyway, what happened with me was that CFS came back and bit me really hard. I had a massive crash, a massive relapse. And for the first time in all that time, it really affected me in a major way emotionally. I actually, that was the first time I actually thought, I'm not going to recover from this. And I'd be very fortunate that all those years I was convinced I was going to. But at that point, I really thought I wasn't going to recover. You know?
So that sounds like it was your low point, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, that actually was my lowest point. You would have thought that actually being originally stuck in a chair, not being able to move would have been a low point. But no, it wasn't. That was my low point. That was it. Yeah.
Were you like you're most severely ill at that time? Is that why? I mean, was it that you were like, were you bedbound or?
No, I wasn't bedbound. And I don't think I was as severely ill as I had been in the past. I was unable to do anything, and even the slightest effort. Just walking out to the car in the drive, for instance, would exhaust me. But I wasn't as bad as I had been. No, I think it just was the sheer enormity of being so ill again, having felt so much better.
You know, it sounds exactly like my story. That's kind of funny, because that's exactly how it was for me. My lowest point was when I had this crash, which was, I think, 6 or 7 years in.
Right.
No, actually a bit sooner. Sorry, about 5 or 6 years in. And yeah, it's you know, one would hope that over time things get better, and when they get worse, and especially when you go through that roller coaster of hope and disappointment, I think it wears us down over time.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, up until that point, had you yourself always thought you were going to get better? I mean,
no. Look, I have to be honest. I wasn't that sensible. I think that's a great way to be. I really would always like to have people have hope. But I personally had lost hope probably after 3 or 4 years, because I tried everything.
Right.
And
yeah, but still 3 or 4 years is a long time to maintain it, isn't it? So,
it is, you know. I mean, you just think of what's going on, because for me it was always like, I have to just find out what it is, and then I will get well. And then when I did find out what it was, there was nothing to suggest that it was going to end well. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose until I learned that I had CFS, I thought I had a virus or something, and I was thinking, oh, I just have to find out what it is, and or it'll just go, you know. And then I had, you know, when I got diagnosed and when I tried all the treatments and nothing worked, I kind of thought I'll just live with it, which seemed an option at the time until things got so bad.
Sure.
And then you sort of feel like, well, you know, now what do I do? I cope. Yeah. It's like you said, the issue becomes coping, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It becomes coping.
Yeah, and when that becomes difficult, then it pushes us into taking new action. And so for you was ANS Rewire. You obviously had a look at it. It resonated with you, and you enrolled. And
well, so now I'd like to say that actually you helped me a lot as well, in the sense of I fired off an email to you in this pretty low state.
Yes.
And you sent me this amazing email full of hope and encouragement. I mean, I think one of the things you said to me in that email was that, because I said, do I just need to start again? I've got it all wrong. You said, no, you need to build on this. You're doing the right things, but you need to build on this.
Right.
And you need to build a robust recovery. Excuse me. You need to build a robust recovery. And that's what I wasn't doing. I would feel a little bit better,
yes,
and then think I was all right.
Yes.
Of course I wasn't.
Right.
And I think that's an important part for anyone looking at the program, which the program does. It builds you, it gets you right.
Yes.
Physically and mentally.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. See, that's a long time ago. I don't remember that email. Yeah. You're kind of refreshing my memory here. But
I'm not surprised. I'm sure you fire so many off to people.
I fire a lot of emails off, yes. So look, I mean, people obviously, some people will be from the program listening to this. Some people want to have a clue. So, you know, obviously for people who don't know what ANS Rewire is, I mean, we don't want to, you know, perhaps it's difficult to go into all the nitty-gritty detail.
of a big program like this. But I mean, we don't want to be secretive. We want to share with people what are the strategies, and many people may go off even to do some of these things on their own. I know that you mentioned meditation, for instance, which is a part of the program. I mean, what were the other parts, I guess, of the program that you used? I mean, did you use all the parts of the program, or did you just use some of the parts?
Yeah, I definitely used the majority of the program. The actual rewire technique itself was very important. I think most of us who've had chronic fatigue syndrome, and I've not had fibromyalgia, but I guess it's the same for people with fibromyalgia. We find that we've got certain triggers, certain things that can set us off, certain things that can make things worse. And part of the program was helping me to identify more clearly those triggers.
Yes.
I had a pretty good idea what they were, but it really helped me to address that and various aspects of my life, and looking at various stressors that I had, which perhaps I just coped with and took for granted and didn't realize were stressors, but I was able to identify those as well, and then deal with that sort of thing. The actual rewire technique helps you to cope with these triggers and do something about it. It helps you to make them less powerful, and in fact, in the end, negate the effect that they have on you. That was a very important part for me.
And I mean, are these all, would you say these are all psychological triggers, or would you say that they're all
No, not at all. Not at all. There's a really interesting part of it where I think it's very early on, where you help us to realize how quite often our posture, how we hold our body, it really made me smile, that particular video when we did it, and you actually took us through this exercise to show us how it happened.
Yes.
And that was kind of like, whoa, a light bulb moment. I just couldn't believe it, and I worked with that, and it was really powerful how quickly, in a matter of days, it made a difference to me.
Yes.
And in my own well-being, how it made a difference. And that was just the way I was holding my body. So to anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, look forward to that. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And very, very helpful. So yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned that I did meditation. Yeah, but the meditation, I was already doing it, yes, but I became more disciplined in doing it. You shouldn't create a rod for your back. I don't mean discipline in that sense, but I became more aware of the value of the meditation.
Yes. Yes.
Benefit of it to me. Sleep was a big thing for me. Sleep was one of the symptoms, which I don't think I mentioned earlier on. Up until I was on the program, I can't remember really sleeping well. I was a very light sleeper. I always used to wake several times during the night. And sleep was something that I addressed part of the program. I used the meditations that you've created just before going to bed, and they were really, really helpful.
So what about the physical strategies? I mean, you mentioned you then also work with an integrated or a functional medicine doctor.
Yeah.
What kind of things did you do there? What kind of treatments did you do with your doctor?
Yeah, that was very diet based. I had a lot of tests done, which showed a very strong sensitivity to gluten and also to dairy products.
Yes.
So I made significant changes in my diet, and I had also, I have to admit, been a vegetarian for I think 27 years.
Yes.
My wife had been a vegetarian for longer than that, and it was actually her who said to me, "You think you really ought to be talking to people about whether you're not eating meat is a complication in order." Which for someone who'd had to, who was a vegetarian for emotional reasons, wasn't an easy thing for either of us to contemplate. But I did stop being a vegetarian. Yeah, okay. That was another part of my dietary changes.
Do you think? I mean, and this is a tricky thing because there are very sound and valid reasons why you want to be a vegetarian. You know, this is your choice. I think that's to be respected, and I suppose perhaps even when you read CFS Unravelled, you recognized the complications that can arise when we have CFS with missing out on certain or having lower levels of certain nutrients. And I think I want to make that point too. It's perhaps different for someone who doesn't have CFS. Yeah. I'm not saying at all that people can't be healthy being vegetarian. However, there's also I think it's quite a tricky thing to have a very healthy vegetarian diet. I think a lot of vegetarians actually eat a very nutritionally poor diet, where some vegetarians eat a fantastically healthy diet. You know, there's a big variation, just like you have.
There's a massive variation. There's a massive variation, and I think the last thing I'd ever want to do is to upset vegetarians in any shape or form.
Yeah,
I think you've put that across really clearly.
Yeah,
but it's one of the things it is. It's very hard. One of the things that helped me. Well, yes, like you say, when I read the book and I saw what you were saying in that, I was a vegetarian at that point.
Yes,
and it was very hard. You know, you're looking at this and thinking, "Oh, I'm really uncomfortable about this."
Yeah.
I think one of the things that actually helped me was the Dalai Lama, who has written about his own health and how he had to deal with this problem, that he actually had to start eating meat on the recommendation of the medics. And I kind of thought, gosh, if he's had to deal with this, and it helped me in some shape or form. I can't explain necessarily why, but it did. It helped me.
Yeah, no,
but it was a hard thing to realize, and I think it's really important to say that it is different for people with chronic fatigue.
Yeah,
you have to accept that it is different for people with chronic fatigue.
Because obviously, when we have chronic fatigue syndrome, the body becomes very depleted.
Yeah,
it becomes depleted, and there's a whole bunch of biochemical processes that they almost need the kickstart. And in order for some of that kickstart to happen, and for us to start metabolizing fats more readily, we obviously need those fats. Now, a vegetarian diet can have those fats, but sometimes it's missing some of those other ingredients in order to metabolize the fats. So these are some of the challenges. Okay, so wow, tough transition, big decision. What was the key? What was the key to success to making it happen? I mean, did you just start with small things? Did you start with eating certain foods? Have you got anything to share?
Yeah, I did. I think I started, first of all, again, sorry vegetarians, I started again with fish.
Yes.
And then I moved into physically it was really hard to chew meat. I hadn't chewed it for 27 years, and it was very hard. But I think for me the fact was I was so ill. Got me over that hump. It got me over that hump of
it helped you.
What I was doing.
Yeah,
it helped me. Yeah.
I imagine that you wouldn't have felt some sort of magic difference straight away when you changed your diet or anything.
No, I didn't. No, not straight away. No.
Okay, so you changed your diet. You removed gluten. Obviously, I can imagine that was a big deal. Did you also reduce carbohydrates on the whole? Did you find that?
I didn't actually reduce carbohydrates significantly until other than obviously not eating pasta and all that sort of thing, because I used to have quite a lot of pasta in my diet as a vegetarian.
Yes.
I think I significantly reduced carbohydrates when I was on the program.
On the ANSWY.
I became much better at looking at my plate and thinking, yeah, okay, I shouldn't have more than that on my plate of carbohydrate, and I should have that amount of protein and that amount of good vegetables. Yes. So I think that's when I really significantly reduced it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in the ANSWY program, I mean, how long was it until you started to feel changes, and you know, did you then change your activity as you went along with that?
Yeah, I started to feel changes very quickly. As I recall, probably in the first 2 weeks, I went from being unable to do anything to starting to function again in some shape or form. And I read my diary recently to see how I'd gone in that first month, and it was really fascinating to see both physically and mentally how I was changing over that period. There was an incredible sense of hope, which I went into it with hope, yes, but it was that hope and realization that, you know what, this is really working.
Yes,
that kicked in very early on, and I think that's important to realize and have that goal that you realize full recovery is possible.
I mean, it's one thing to have hope, but hope and faith are quite different, aren't they? And when we actually experience a change, it builds a whole different level of confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Confidence is probably a better word. Yeah. So yes, by the end of that first month, of doing the program, I actually rated myself at 8 out of 10 as to my capabilities, which I was just staggered by, really. I was functioning much better physically. I wasn't feeling so tired if I did things, and I then gradually built up doing more and more physically. Started walking, increasing the amount I walked gradually.
Were you scared of doing this at all? Given the fact that obviously in the past, whenever you increase
I had that massive relapse.
you get really sick
No,
again.
I don't. No, you know, I don't think I was. And you, that word you used, there was that confidence. No, I wasn't.
Right.
I'd really taken on board because I could see when I looked back at all those times of improvement, and how I had improved in that time. I could understand that the problem was that I didn't allow myself to recover fully.
Right.
I never built that robust recovery, which I needed.
Yes.
One of the things you talk about later in the program is the importance physically of reconditioning our body after so much time of having chronic fatigue syndrome. I think that's really, really important. I know you don't want me to go too much into the technical side of things, but as you say, after all that time, our muscles have got weak. We're not able to do
absolutely
things. And so that gradual building of physical reconditioning, I'm not going to say fitness, I'm going to say reconditioning, so important into then maintaining that recovery.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that I had to address, which the program does so well, was a lot of those, I'm going to use the word psychological, I don't know if that, because this is not a psychological problem, but let's just say those little voices in your head, let's say that then, that maybe make you a pessimist or cynical or an overachiever or a warrior. Those sort of things that most of us have got a combination of within us, which no one sees, and the powerful effect those can have on you. And addressing those through the program was really, really important as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When we're so sick for so long, it's like, I mean, I don't know. None of us live perfectly, and sometimes many of our strengths can become weaknesses too in life. But when we're well, it doesn't really matter. We can take it in your stride. But when we're sick,
definitely,
we become so vulnerable that, you know, somebody making a bunch of noise can impact us, our well-being.
Absolutely.
You know, someone opening a bottle of perfume, 30 meters away can suddenly affect us. And and so we have to tap into these other things.
I had to make a number of. I made a number of, as well as that, I made a number of lifestyle choice changes, which were pretty massive, actually.
Yeah. Like what kind of changes?
Well, sleep. Sleep was a major issue. I'd always been up with the lark when I was younger. Someone who was good in the mornings, used to wake with the dawn. I used to sleep with the curtains open because I used to like to watch the dawn rise. And my wife was the complete opposite. She's a night owl, and so going to bed, she would go to bed very late. We used to eat late. go to bed late. We go to bed late. She couldn't go to sleep until she'd read for quite a long time, by which time I was overtired and I would never get to sleep.
Right.
And this didn't happen, so that just didn't help. So quite often I would be going past midnight and still not getting to sleep. So that was addressing the sleep issues that I had in my life. I had to make a pretty major choice, and to talk to Kate about it as well. I chose to sleep in a different bedroom.
Sure.
And that's a pretty, after you've been married for 34 years, is a pretty dramatic decision to make.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, for my own health and welfare, I realized that I was living by Kate's rhythms, not by my own rhythms.
Absolutely.
And I now continue. I go to bed far, far earlier than Kate. Because that's what I want to do. I don't stay up just deliberately because Kate goes to bed late at night. So that was I think that was a pretty radical decision to make. But the benefits of it were enormous. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Massive.
So were there any other sort of lifestyle changes that you made that you think were very significant?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lifestyle choices I made was a better understanding of balance in life. Again, those who are on the program might have already done the wheel. The wheel of, remind me the name?
I think Wheel of Balance, I think was the name of it.
Thank you.
I hope that was it.
Whoa, the Wheel of Balance. Fancy getting that. And I just said, the Wheel of Balance.
Yeah.
That was a very helpful exercise for me. And I could see massive imbalance, which I kind of knew was there.
Yes.
But it really clarified it, made it clear to me. And I think I made a massive change, that understanding, and therefore the balance in my life. I've just come back from a lovely weekend away dancing, where I did workshops through the whole weekend, danced in the night, and had a brilliant time. It was fantastic. But then I look at the balance of that and I realize that then, it's quite natural. I'm going to feel tired for a couple of days. That's okay. But I balance what I do in those couple of days. And this is completely, I don't mean like pacing in any shape or form or that, but but it's getting that balance in your life that can't be on the go all the time. You got to have rest, and you know what? It's okay to sit down and quietly read a book and relax. You're not being lazy. That's life, and you should do that.
Absolutely. Isn't it funny? Because you look at an animal, that happens.
Yes, exactly.
It's it's like if I go and take my dog to the beach and she's running around and jumping around the ocean and what have you. Guess what happens when we get home for the rest of the afternoon, evening? Lying in the basket.
Goes to sleep. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But we'd be doing paperwork. It makes no sense.
I know. It's crazy.
Would you say there was a particular challenge that you had really with the recovery process? Was there anything you found kind of difficult during your recovery? Now, how long did your recovery take, all in all?
Well, my recovery from starting on the program took 4.5 months.
Right.
Which I was pretty blown away by, I have to say. Was there anything particular? No. I very much felt that the program takes you forward in a way that you build on the success. Get my tongue around it. You build on the success of every stage.
Yes.
Every stage that you do, you build on that and set an action plan, don't you, every day, or every video, I should say, because you don't necessarily watch a video every day if that's not where you are. But there's an action to complete. And it can be the very first day, it can be a very simple action. So don't, if someone's looking at this who's doesn't know a lot about the program, don't think that you're going to be set a massive task, which is difficult. You're not. You're set something which at that particular point you're capable of doing, and it just builds and builds and gives you that confidence in moving forward. So as the program's developed, and it becomes slightly more complex in that you're addressing, as I said, character traits, for instance. You've already got that ability. You've grown, you've developed, rather like an athlete developing their fitness for a competition. You take Dan, take us, and slowly build us up to a point where we're ready for that next stage. So no, I didn't find things too challenging or over challenging. Yeah. Things were just right for me.
Did you have any setbacks? I mean, did you ever feel like you were going backwards?
No, I didn't.
That would have been a pleasant change.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was nice not to experience that. No, yes. I didn't at any point have like a relapse at all. No.
Okay. So obviously that really helped, I guess, with your confidence, and probably part.
Yeah, that again helped with my confidence. Yes.
Yeah. So my question is, was there one thing that you think was the most important thing in your recovery?
I think acceptance was an important thing, an acceptance, but a peaceful acceptance of having chronic fatigue syndrome. It wasn't that over all those years of having it, I didn't recognize it, but there was something about accepting, okay, I'm ill. I am ill. This is how it is. But it doesn't mean this is how it's got to be. And then it was just a whole combination of the whole package of the ANS Rewire program and all the different things coming together that worked so well with me.
Why do you think the acceptance was so important? Did it change how you?
I think there was a change in it was almost like a change that gave me a sense of peace, almost a peace in myself.
Yeah.
I'd always been somebody who, if I was ill, I fought against it, fought against illness. I didn't give in to it. If I felt slightly run down, I'm thinking back now, like 20, 30 years, I felt slightly run down. Oh, I didn't give in to that. I'd go to work and I'd work hard and I'd put in a full day.
Soldier on.
That's the word, soldier on. That's the one, soldier on. So yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. There was that sort of acceptance. Okay, I'm ill. All right. Let's move forward from that point. Let's do something about it. I lost that driving of my body. We've used the word already. I think I started to be kind. I started to nurture myself. That's what that acceptance led to.
Because even if you're only doing 10% of what you would be doing if you're healthy, that 10% can still be absolutely flogging yourself with it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I look back now. And how I would be, and quite frank, I think I was insane.
Yeah, no, it's
not quite. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Compared to,
absolutely.
I mean, I describe this as being life transforming, and it is. It's life transforming. I'm a different person. I'm a better person. I just look back at that person. I sort of think, how did you, bang, all those years?
Yeah,
how did you do it?
I think so many of us do that when we recover. I wrote a blog about that some years ago, and I got a lot of emails from it. I have to tell you, because when we look at it, we have such a perspective that's so different afterwards when we look back at it, and you can just go, wow, how did you do it? And even whilst we're ill, I just don't think people realize just how amazing it is that they do what they do. But I mean, just going back on that, like I said, if you can only do 10% of what you could be doing if you're healthy, I mean, you shouldn't be doing 10%, should you? I mean, if you accept that you're ill and you can only do 10%, then maybe you should be doing 5%.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that is the shift that we get through this acceptance, because you go, okay, well, that's it. So you don't just go, oh no, only 10%, so I'll just, or only 20 or 30%. No, we should be doing less than what we can, and that I think this acceptance really ties closely in with that nurturing. I think they go hand in hand. Look, as we finish up, I guess for people who don't know anything about the ANS Rewire program, and who are probably trying a whole bunch of different strategies, some are helpful. I mean, what's your biggest advice to people who are still sick?
I think my biggest advice to people who are still sick is don't give up. There really is hope. I'm sat here today as an example of someone who has gone through this process, who's used the ANS Rewire program, and who has made a full recovery. You'll find doctors who'll tell you that you can't recover, but I'm sorry, you can. And I don't know why I'm apologizing for it. It's wonderful. You really can recover.
Yes.
You recover. You can live a full life again. You can do the things you want to do. I would urge anyone who's in that situation to look closely at your program, Dan. I think you've put a fantastic program together. I really do. For me, it was life-changing. It was transforming. Incredibly positive experience. I didn't just come out of it recovering from CFS. I came out of it a better person. I came out of it a more balanced person. I've come out of it a person who's got a whole new perspective on life. And I think, quite frankly, I'll never ever let a day go by where I'm not grateful for my health. It's this ability to really enjoy my life fully again, which is fantastic. So thank you, a big thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And to anyone else, I would say, look at the ANS Rewire program.
Okay.
You put your free videos up, don't you, for people to look at?
Absolutely.
And give them info. And I would say check it out. And I wouldn't just say check it out. I'd say go for it.
Okay, thank you, Ted. And I guess the other question is, you mentioned, about living a full life again. I mean, what's life like now for you? I mean, has there been any particular things that you've done since you've recovered, which I guess is probably, a year ago now, almost, is it? Or 6 months ago?
Yeah. I mean, it will be a year very soon, yeah.
So, I mean, is there anything in particular you've done where you've gone, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this again, I never thought I would? Or did you have any sort of aha moments? I mean, how do you know you're fully well now?
How do I know I'm fully well?
What are you doing these days?
How do I know I'm fully well? Well, I've been able to do a lot of the things that I used to do. Again, I keep talking about dancing, but my dance instructress got really excited, and obviously as I got better, because she said she thought she'd lost me as a dancer, in the sense of that she would never dance with me at my ability as I had been before I was ill. And she just said, "Wow, you're back! You're back! I thought I'd never dance with you again like this in this world." At a ballroom. This was a ballroom dance. I do swing dancing, Lindy Hop and Balboa, which is great fun to fast music. But I also am on ballroom dance. And blissfully, I danced a Viennese with waltz with her on a fantastically large ballroom floor the other week, and it was just heaven. It was like flying. It was just fantastic. And I came off the floor, and she was puffing and panting. She's 10 years younger than me, and I wasn't even drawing breath. It was just fantastic. It was just amazing.
That's great to see you wearing out the dance instructor. How cool is that?
This is great.
After years of CFS, going from like 10 and 20 seconds a week to puffing out your instructor.
And then it's just all the other things I've noticed, especially on the physical side. Last year when I went skiing, last season, it was this year. And when I went in January, I had a fantastic 2-week skiing holiday. I'm a pretty advanced skier in my ability, and all my ski chum mates who I was with, again, who were a lot younger than me, just couldn't get over my strength and how I was skiing, and my endurance was just amazing. So
it must have been pretty weird after sort of being offline for 8 years, and then 6 months, or I think 6 or 8 months after you started the program, to be like, going down the
No, well,
skiing.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and in really good shape. Yeah.
How do you feel at the end of your day working?
I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the odd day when it's absolutely mega busy and there's been loads of emergencies coming in. I might feel a bit tired, but that's all I feel.
Yeah.
And I come home and I get my tea ready and I cook my tea and I sit down and I go dancing or whatever I do. And I just get on with it. It's great.
Isn't that great?
Really good.
Well, good on you, mate. You know, Ted, I think we always appreciate life in a way that we never did beforehand, you know, at the other end of CFS.
Definitely. Absolutely. But I think also part of it, I mean, you asked me a question a little bit earlier on, how do I know I'm fully recovered? And I just feel so well, obviously. But part of that is that when I look back, when something like you're just describing happens, and you're thinking, well, why is this happening? And you can't see it. Part of the problem is that our cognitive abilities are, especially if you had brain fog like I used to have, you can't see things as clearly as possible. You just can't see the wood for the trees almost. And that's, like you say, someone else just looking in from the outside. Be as clear as day to them. They see it straight away. They can see it with a different perspective.
Absolutely.
But get help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, reach out. Don't internalize this. Reach out.
Absolutely. Ted, thank you very much for inspiring hope and for sharing your insights today.
Well done. That's very kind of you to say that to me. But thank you for inspiring hope and for all you've done for me. It's a pleasure for me to be here today, feeling the way I do, do this for you, to say thank you, and on behalf of all of us who've been through your program and who are enjoying this incredible new life that you've given us really through your program. Thank you, Ken.
No worries.
Thank you so much.
Okay, cheers. All right, bye-bye.